The cargo hold smelled like burnt metal and desperation. Owen Foster pressed his back against the cold wall, listening to the sounds of tearing steel echo through his ship. 23 years of merchant trading across the outer sectors, and this was how it would end. Not from engine failure or navigation errors, but from the Ravagers who now cut through the hull like it was paper. There, through the secondary airlock, Lucia called from her position near the corridor junction. The young pilot held a maintenance wrench in her shaking hands. It wouldn't do much against what was coming, but Owen understood the need to hold something, anything that felt like a weapon. 3 days ago, everything had been normal. Owen's ship, the Bright Horizon, was hauling medical supplies to a frontier colony when they encountered the Dreeken convoy. The insectoid merchants were friendly enough, always had been. Their leader, High Arbiter Quellen, had 6 legs and compound eyes that reflected light in strange patterns. He'd shared navigational data about asteroid fields ahead, and they'd agreed to travel together for mutual protection. Then the Ravagers arrived, 16 warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel like metal predators. Owen tried every trick he knew. He offered cargo, credits, anything. The response came through his communication system in a grinding, multi-toned voice that made his teeth ache. You surrender everything. Your ships, your cargo, your freedom. You become property of the Ravager clans or you become dust. Owen had seen what happened to ships that resisted. Empty hulls drifting in space, their crews gone to slave markets in the lawless zones. The Dreeken were terrified. Quellen's compound eyes had shifted through colors Owen had learned meant extreme fear. The insectoids weren't fighters, they were traders, scholars, families trying to survive in a galaxy that had too many predators. There has to be something we can do, Lucia had said then, her fingers dancing across the pilot console with increasing desperation. She was searching through every system, every backup protocol. Owen had been about to tell her to stop, to save. Her energy for what came next, when she made a sound he'd never heard before, half gasp, half laugh. Captain, there's a beacon, old military hardware hidden in the emergency systems. It's marked as Sigma class. Owen didn't recognize the designation, but his heart rate jumped anyway. Anything military might help. Can you activate it? It's asking for authorization codes, but there's an override. Emergency use only. It says it will broadcast our location and situation to all nearby military vessels. Do it. Do it now. Lucia's hands moved fast. A deep thrumming sound filled the bridge, something that felt more than heard. Every screen on the ship flashed red for 3 seconds, then returned to normal. The beacon icon showed active, pulsing steadily. That was when the Ravagers stopped talking and started shooting. Not to destroy, Owen realized, but to disable. Their weapons hit the engines precisely, killing thrust, but leaving life support intact. They wanted captives, not corpses. Now, 40 minutes later, the boarders were inside the ship. Owen could hear their heavy footfalls, the scraping of claws or boots on metal. The Dreeken had gathered in the cargo hold with the humans, all 12 of them huddled together. Quellen stood with his thorax straight despite the trembling in his limbs. Your beacon. Quellen clicked softly, his translation device rendering it into human language. Will anyone answer? Owen wanted to lie, to offer comfort he didn't feel, but he respected the Dreeken too much for that. I don't know. We're 800 light-years from the nearest human military station. Even if they received the signal, even if they decided to respond, it would take weeks. Then we die here, one of the younger Dreeken said, her antennae drooping. No. Owen surprised himself with the firmness in his voice. We survive as long as we can. Every hour we're alive is another hour for that beacon to work. The Ravagers want slaves, not bodies. That gives us time. The cutting sound stopped. The airlock to the cargo hold began cycling open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Owen moved to stand in front of the Dreeken, putting his body between them and whatever came through. Lucia joined him, still gripping her wrench. Pathetic as it was, she wouldn't face this alone. The airlock finished opening. 4 Ravagers stepped through, each easily twice the size of Owen. They had 4 arms apiece, covered in mottled gray skin that looked like stone. Their faces were flat with too many teeth and eyes that held no warmth, no mercy. The lead Ravager studied them for a long moment. Then it laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Humans," it said in broken galactic common, "thought you were myth. Children's stories to frighten weak species. But you're real, small, soft." It stepped closer, and Owen could smell something like sulfur on its breath. "You'll bring good price on the markets. Exotic specimens. Very rare." Owen held his ground even as every instinct screamed at him to run. Behind him, he felt Quellen's smallest hand rest gently on his shoulder. Solidarity in their final moments together. The Ravager's smile widened. "Welcome to your new life, myth creatures. Hope your beacon brings friends. We'll sell them too." The Situation Room deep inside Earth's military headquarters had been silent for exactly 14 seconds. Admiral Patricia Okonkwo watched the holographic display rotating slowly in the center of the table, showing a sector of space so far from human territory that most civilians didn't know it existed. The silence broke when her communications officer spoke again, quieter this time. "Confirmed, Admiral. Sigma-class beacon authentication codes valid. 47 years since the last activation." Patricia felt something cold settle in her stomach. She'd been a child during the War of Liberation, barely old enough to understand why her parents cried when the news broadcasts showed Earth under siege. 3 alien empires had decided humanity was growing too fast, becoming too successful. They'd come to cull the humans back to manageable numbers. They'd come to teach the upstart species their place in the galactic order. They'd learned a different lesson instead. "Location?" Patricia asked. "Sector 7, Outer Rim, 843 light-years from our nearest patrol. Casualties? Unknown. The beacon provides location and classification only. Sigma-class means humans are under threat of extinction or enslavement. By protocol, we assume all vessels in the area are hostile until proven otherwise." Patricia stood and walked to the holographic display. 800 light-years. Even with conventional faster-than-light drives, her fleet would take weeks to arrive. And humans had one unbreakable rule, written in the ashes of the War of Liberation: no human left behind. No human enslaved. Not ever again. Get me Dr. Wu and Colonel Volkov, now. 5 minutes later, the Situation Room held 3 more people. Dr. Henry Wu looked exhausted, probably pulled from his sleep cycle. Colonel Dmitry Volkov looked alert and ready, like he'd been expecting this call his entire career. Maybe he had been. "Talk to me, Henry," Patricia said. "What do we know about Sector 7? The xenoanthropologist pulled up data streams with practiced gestures. "Frontier territory, nominally under the control of the Ravager clans, a coalition of 4 aggressive species. They maintain power through raiding and intimidation. Several peaceful species exist in the region under their control, the Dreek and the Yolan, a few others. All non-military traders. Do the Ravagers know about humanity?" Henry hesitated. "They know we exist. But Patricia, nobody out there knows what we really are. The last time humanity fought was 2 generations ago. We've spent 47 years rebuilding, trading, being good galactic citizens. We've been peaceful." "Peaceful," Patricia repeated. The word felt strange in her mouth. "Because nobody has threatened us." "Exactly. The galaxy thinks we're merchants and explorers. They think we're soft." Colonel Volkov smiled then, thin and sharp. "They're about to learn otherwise." Patricia looked at the tactical display again. Her fleet, the 3rd Deep Strike Fleet, was the closest. 40 ships designed for rapid response and overwhelming force. They'd been patrolling the mid-rim sectors, checking trade routes and showing presence. "Standard peacetime operations. How fast can we reach Sector 7 with full drives?" she asked. Volkov pulled up specifications. "The experimental fold drives can cut travel time significantly. 48 hours if we push them hard, 50 if we want to maintain equipment safety margins." "We don't have safety margins," Patricia said quietly. "Whoever activated that beacon is counting hours until they die. We go full burn." "Damn the equipment." "Admiral," Henry interrupted, "you need to understand what this means. Sigma-class activation triggers automatic responses across all human military branches. Every fleet within response range will be mobilizing. If you arrive first and engage, others will follow. This could be the first major human military action in half a century." "Good," Patricia said. "Let them come. Dr. Wu, I want you with us. You'll handle first contact protocols after we secure our people." First contact protocols, Henry repeated slowly. Patricia, if shooting starts, there won't be much left to negotiate with. Then they shouldn't have threatened our people. Patricia's voice was ice and iron together. She pulled up fleet-wide communications. This is Admiral Okonkwo to all ships of the 3rd Deep Strike Fleet. Sigma-class beacon has been activated in Sector 7. Human lives are in immediate danger. We launch in 1 hour. Full military loadout. 0 quarter protocols are in effect until I say otherwise. 0 quarter. The phrase hung in the air like a weapon being loaded. It meant no warnings beyond the first. No second chances. Humanity had learned in the War of Liberation that mercy shown to aggressors was just another word for suicide. Volkov stood straighter. What are the rules of engagement, Admiral? Patricia met his eyes. We arrive in Sector 7 and broadcast one message. We demand the immediate and unconditional release of all human captives. We give them one chance to comply. And if they refuse, then we remind the galaxy why we survived the War of Liberation. Why 3 empires fell and humanity stood. We show them what we really are when pushed. She paused, letting the weight settle. We don't fight for glory or conquest. We fight to protect our own. And anyone who threatens us finds out that humans are very, very good at violence when we need to be. Henry looked troubled, but didn't argue. He'd seen the historical records. He knew what humanity was capable of when the choice was fight or die. One more thing, Patricia added. The beacon was activated from a merchant vessel. That means civilians in danger, possibly with alien allies. When we engage, precision is everything. We neutralize threats, but we protect the innocent. Any species that stands with our people gets our protection too. Understood, Volkov said. I'll brief the special operations teams. If there are hostages, we'll need precision extraction. Patricia nodded and turned back to the holographic display. Somewhere out in that vast darkness, humans were counting minutes, praying someone heard their call, hoping the old stories about humanity's military might weren't just myths. All ships report ready status in 40 minutes, she ordered. We fold in 1 hour. And may whatever gods these ravagers believe in have mercy on them, because we won't. The room emptied quickly as orders cascaded through the military hierarchy. Henry remained, studying the display with worried eyes. Patricia, he said softly, the galaxy has forgotten what we can do. This will change everything. Yes, Patricia agreed. It will. But we made a promise after the War of Liberation. Never again. Not to us, not to anyone who stands beside us. Whoever activated that beacon put their faith in humanity. I won't let them die wondering if anyone cared enough to answer. 843 light-years away, the countdown had already begun. The cell was barely large enough for Owen to stand upright. The Ravagers had separated the humans from the Draken, though he could hear clicking sounds through the thin walls that might have been Quellen trying to communicate. Owen's hands were bound with some kind of energy restraint that burned if he pulled too hard against it. His right eye was swollen shut from where a Ravager guard had struck him for moving too slowly. Lucia was in the cell across the narrow corridor. She'd stopped crying about an hour ago and now just stared at the wall with empty eyes. Nina Petrov, his engineer, was 3 cells down. He could hear her voice sometimes whispering what sounded like calculations or prayers in her native language. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy, deliberate, more than one set. Owen pushed himself up to sitting position, refusing to be on the ground when they came. The door opened with a hiss. 3 Ravagers entered, but these were different from the guards. They wore decorative armor etched with symbols Owen didn't recognize. The largest one had to turn sideways to fit through the doorway. Human, it said in surprisingly clear galactic common. I am Warlord Krall, leader of the Ravager clans. You will answer questions. Owen said nothing. He'd learned in basic military training that silence was sometimes the only weapon left. Krall's forearms gestured, and one of the other Ravagers grabbed Owen by the throat, lifting him off the ground with casual strength. You will answer or you will suffer. Simple choice. What do you want to know? Owen managed to choke out. Krall gestured and the guard dropped him. Owen gasped for air, his throat burning. These stories about humans, Krall said. Are they true? The War of Liberation. 3 empires falling. Entire fleets destroyed. Owen felt something shift in his chest. Hope, maybe, or just bitter satisfaction. You've heard the stories? Old tales told to frighten children on frontier worlds. Myths about a species that refused to die, that fought with such violence that advanced civilizations crumbled. But myths are just myths. Krall leaned closer. Aren't they? Owen met the warlord's eyes. Activate your long-range sensors. Point them toward human space. Wait 48 hours. Then you'll know which stories are myths and which are history lessons. Crawl laughed, that grinding rock sound. Brave words from a prisoner. But I think you're bluffing. I think humans are just another weak species pretending to be strong. Your little beacon won't save you. We're 800 light years from human territory. No one is coming. Then why are you asking about the stories? The question hung in the air. Crawl's expression shifted. Something that might have been uncertainty crossing his features before vanishing behind aggression again. I ask because your species will bring excellent prices. Rare specimens. The galaxy will pay much for living humans. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and human. We've already sent messages to the black markets. Every slaver, every collector in 5 sectors knows we have humans now. They're coming here to bid. Your beacon might bring your military eventually, but my buyers will arrive first. The door sealed shut. Owen slumped against the wall, his mind racing. The beacon was working. It had to be. Sigma class meant automatic military response. But Crawl was right about the distance. Even with faster-than-light travel, it would take weeks for help to arrive. Owen? Lucia's voice came from across the corridor, small and frightened. Did you hear that? They're going to sell us, I heard. The beacon. Will it work? Owen wanted to lie, to offer comfort. But she deserved truth. I don't know. But it's our only chance. Hours passed. Guards brought food, if the gray paste could be called that. Owen forced himself to eat. Staying alive meant staying strong enough to fight if opportunity came. Then Nina started shouting. Her voice carried down the corridor in sharp bursts of anger. You idiots! Do you know what you've done? Do you understand what's coming? Guards moved to silence her, but her voice grew louder. I've been monitoring your communications. Your buyers aren't coming anymore. Half of them canceled. The others are running away from this sector as fast as their ships can manage. Owen pressed his face against the small window in his cell door. He could see Nina being dragged past, still shouting. The ancient species, the ones who survived the War of Liberation, they're evacuating. They remember what humans do to anyone who enslaves us. They're terrified. A guard struck her and she went silent. But the damage was done. Owen had heard enough. He felt something unfold in his chest, something that had been compressed by fear and hopelessness. The ancient species were running. That meant they believed the stories. That meant they knew what was coming. The Ravagers were about to learn the difference between myth and memory. Time became strange in the cell. Owen tried to count hours but lost track. His military training kept him focused on staying alert, staying ready. Lucia had stopped crying again. Nina was silent, but he could sense her presence. That engineer's mind probably working on some impossible escape plan. Then the ship shuddered. A deep resonant vibration that Owen felt in his bones. Alarm started blaring throughout the vessel. A guard rushed past Owen's cell, speaking rapidly into a communicator. Owen caught fragments. Multiple contacts. Approaching fast. Unknown configuration. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Owen heard what might have been weapons fire, distant and muffled through the hull. His heart began to race. Warlord Crawl's voice boomed through the ship's communication system, audible even in the cells. All vessels, battle stations. We have incoming ships. 40 vessels, human design, 40 vessels. Owen's breath caught. That was a full fleet deployment. Lucia was crying again, but this time it sounded like relief. They came, she whispered. Owen, they actually came. Owen closed his eyes, feeling something like prayers forming in his mind. 40 ships meant serious military commitment. It meant someone had received the beacon and decided humans in danger were worth a full fleet response. The ship rocked violently. Power flickered. In the brief darkness, Owen heard Nina laugh, wild and free. Now you've done it, you stupid, stupid aliens. Now you've made humanity angry. Another impact, closer this time. Owen braced himself against the wall as gravity fluctuated. Whatever was happening out there, it was happening fast. A new voice came through the communication system, clear and cold and speaking in human language first, then translated into Galactic Common. This is Admiral Patricia Okonkwo of the Human Third Deep Strike Fleet. You are holding human citizens against their will. Release them immediately. This is your only warning. Owen felt tears burning in his good eye. One warning. That was human military doctrine. One chance to do the right thing before overwhelming force followed. Crawl's response crackled through the speakers. Humans, you have 40 ships. We have 200. Leave now or die with your people. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Admiral Okonkwo spoke again, and her voice was the sound of glaciers breaking, of mountains falling, of something ancient and patient that had finally decided to move. Very well, then die you shall. High Arbiter Quellen pressed his body against the viewport in the cargo hold where the Dragon had been locked together. His compound eyes could see wavelengths humans couldn't, which meant he watched the battle begin in colors that would have been invisible to his captured friends. What he saw made his thorax tremble with something between awe and terror. The human fleet had arrived like mathematics given form, 40 ships emerging from fold space in perfect formation, each one exactly where it needed to be to create overlapping fields of fire. The Ravager fleet was larger, more than 200 vessels scattered across the sector in defensive positions. But Quellen had spent 3 decades as a merchant and trader. He understood efficiency. He understood the difference between quantity and quality. The humans understood it better. Warlord Kral's fleet opened fire first. Energy weapons lanced across space. Massive displays of power meant to intimidate and overwhelm. Quellen watched the bolts impact against human shields. The shields flickered but held. Every single shot was absorbed or deflected. Then the humans returned fire. Quellen had never seen weapons like these. They didn't waste energy on displays of force. Each shot was precise, calculated, aimed at specific points on specific ships. A Ravager destroyer took a hit to its engine core and went dark, drifting. Another ship's weapon system simply stopped working after a human beam passed through them. No explosions, no drama, just sudden and complete systems failure. They're not trying to destroy the ships, Quellen clicked to himself. They're disabling them. The Draken next to him, a younger merchant named Scylla, pressed closer to the viewport. Why? If they have such power, why not simply eliminate the threat? Quellen thought about Owen and his crew, about how the humans had put themselves between the Draken and the Ravager borders, about how Owen had spoken of surviving long enough for help to arrive, because somewhere on these ships there might be more prisoners. They're protecting people they don't even know exist. The battle was evolving faster than Quellen could track. The human ships moved with impossible agility, darting between Ravager vessels like silver fish through a net. Their formations shifted constantly, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. No wasted movement. No hesitation. A Ravager cruiser fired on a human destroyer at close range. The human ship rolled impossibly fast for something so large, and the shot passed harmlessly into empty space. Before the Ravager could recalibrate, 3 human ships bracketed it and fired simultaneously. The cruiser's weapons, engines, and communications all failed in the same instant. It's not a battle, Scylla whispered. It's surgery. Quellen realized his young friend was right. The humans weren't fighting. They were systematically dismantling the Ravager fleet with clinical precision. Every shot served a purpose. Every maneuver opened new angles of attack while closing enemy options. This wasn't violence born from anger or fear. This was violence as mathematics, as art, as something that had been studied and perfected over generations. Warlord Kral's voice boomed through the captured ships again. All vessels focus fire on their flagship. Overwhelm their defenses. 50 Ravager ships turned their weapons on a single human vessel, larger than the others, marked with command insignia. The combined firepower was enough to vaporize a small moon. Energy beams converged on the flagship from every direction. The human ship didn't even slow down. Its shields blazed white-hot but held. And while the Ravagers had focused everything on one target, the other 39 human ships had repositioned. They fired as one, a perfectly synchronized strike. 20 Ravager vessels went dark simultaneously. Not destroyed, Quellen noted. Disabled, dead in space but intact, crew still alive. Break off. Kral's voice was different now, higher pitched. Fear was creeping in. Scatter formation. Individual ships engage at will. The Ravager fleet dissolved into chaos, each ship trying to survive rather than fight as a unit. The humans adapted instantly. They formed into smaller hunting groups, 3 or 4 ships working together to corner and disable individual Ravager vessels. It was like watching predators isolate prey from a herd. Quellen felt the ship he was on shudder. Through the viewport he saw human fighters, small and agile, sweeping past. They weren't shooting at the ship. They were targeting specific external systems. Communications array, weapon hardpoints, engine pods, they know we're here, Quellen realized. They know there are prisoners on this ship, and they're making sure we won't be caught in crossfire. The precision was terrifying. The humans were fighting a fleet of 200 ships while simultaneously ensuring no harm came to prisoners they couldn't even see, whose locations they could only guess. Time lost meaning. The battle that should have lasted hours was over in minutes. Quellen watched as the last functional Ravager vessels tried to flee. The human ships didn't pursue all of them. They let some go, Quellen realized. Witnesses, ships that would carry the story of what happened here. But Warlord Krall's flagship, the Dominion's Fang, didn't get to run. 6 human ships surrounded it, weapons locked. The flagship's shields were down. Its weapons were silent. It hung in space like a trapped animal. Admiral Okonkwo's voice came through every speaker again. Warlord Krall, you have lost. Power down your remaining systems and prepare to be boarded. Resist, and I will demonstrate the difference between disabled and destroyed. Silence. Then Krall's voice, all the arrogance gone. You have defeated us. We surrender. Wrong answer, Okonkwo replied, ice in every word. You don't surrender to me. You surrender to every species you've enslaved, every innocent you've harmed. You surrender to the idea that there are consequences for cruelty. My forces will now retrieve our people and any other prisoners. If a single human has been harmed beyond what was necessary for capture, I will reconsider my mercy. Quellen felt the ship shudder again as docking clamps engaged. Human boarders were coming. He moved to the center of the cargo hold, gathering the other Dreeken around him. When they enter, stay calm. Make no sudden movements. These are warriors who have just fought a battle. They will be alert, ready for threats. But we're not threats, Scylla said. They don't know that yet. We show them respect, we show them we're grateful, and we don't do anything that could be mistaken for aggression. The cargo hold door exploded inward. Not opened, Quellen noted. Destroyed with shaped charges that directed the blast away from the interior. Through the smoke, figures moved in armor that made them look like metal giants. They swept into the room with weapons raised, moving with the same precision as their ships. One of them spoke, voice amplified by helmet speakers. Any humans present, identify yourselves. No humans here. Quellen clicked, his translator rendering it into human language. Only Dreeken. Prisoners of the Ravagers. Please, our human friends are being held in the detention level. The armored figure's helmet turned toward him. For a moment, Quellen felt the full weight of a warrior's assessment. Then the human lowered their weapons slightly. Understood. Medical teams will arrive shortly to assess your condition. Stay here where it's safe. Wait, Quellen called as the soldiers moved to leave. The humans who were captured with us. Are they alive? The soldier paused. We're finding out right now. But I promise you this, all of you. Anyone who hurt them will answer for it. And anyone they were trying to protect gets our protection too. That's the human way. Then they were gone, moving deeper into the ship with purpose and speed. Quellen sank down, his 6 legs unable to hold him up anymore. Around him, the other Dreeken began to click in their own language, processing what they'd witnessed. The stories were true, Scylla whispered. All of them. Humans are terrifying. No, Quellen corrected gently. Humans are terrifying to those who threaten the innocent. To everyone else, they're the best friends you could ever hope to have. Through the viewport, the human fleet held position among the drifting Ravager ships. 40 vessels had defeated 200 in the time it took to drink a cup of tea. And they'd done it while protecting prisoners they didn't even know about. Quellen understood now why 3 empires had fallen during the War of Liberation. Not because humans were monsters, but because they were something far more dangerous. They were protectors who had learned that sometimes the best way to save lives was to be very, very good at ending fights before they began. Owen heard them coming before he saw them. The sound of armored boots on metal, moving with purpose and speed that spoke of military training. Then the detention level's main door simply ceased to exist, blown inward with controlled charges that left the corridor intact, but removed any barrier. Human prisoners, make yourselves known. The voice was amplified, authoritative, careful. Here, Owen shouted, his voice raw. 3 of us, cells 4, 7, and 9. More shaped charges. His cell door vanished in a flash of light and noise. 3 figures in combat armor entered, weapons raised, scanning for threats. When they determined he was alone and secured, one of them approached. Captain Foster? The soldier's helmet retracted, showing a woman with sharp eyes and a medical scanner already in her hand. I'm Commander Sophie Adler. Let's get you out of here. The energy restraints around Owen's wrists deactivated with a touch from her equipment. Blood rushed back into his hands, painful and welcome. "My crew," he managed. "Lucia Ramos, Nina Petrov. We're getting them now, can you walk?" Owen tried standing. His legs shook but held. "I can walk." They found Lucia next. She was curled in the corner of her cell, arms wrapped around her knees. When the door blew open, she flinched. Owen pushed past the soldiers and knelt beside her. "Lucia, it's over. We're going home." She looked up at him with red eyes. "I thought they were going to kill us. I thought nobody would come." "They came," Owen said softly. "Look around. They came for us." Nina was in better shape, already on her feet when they reached her cell. She had somehow managed to pry open part of the wall panel and was examining the wiring. When the soldiers entered, she looked up with a grin that was slightly manic. "Took you long enough. I was about to rewire their entire detention system." Commander Adler actually smiled at that. "Good initiative, but let's get you to medical first." They moved through the ship in a protective formation, the soldiers surrounding the rescued humans. Owen noticed everything. The way they checked corners, the way they positioned themselves between the humans and any potential threat. These weren't just soldiers. These were people who had trained specifically for hostage rescue. In one corridor, they passed Ravager bodies. Owen's stomach tightened, but Adler spoke before he could ask. "Stunned only. Admiral's orders were clear. We disable unless they force lethal response. These ones got smart and surrendered." They reached the docking bay where a human shuttle waited. The interior was equipped with medical stations, food, water, and blankets that looked impossibly soft after days in a cell. A man in medical uniform immediately began scanning them. "Raj Patel, trauma specialist. I need to check each of you for injuries. This won't take long, but please let me do my job." Owen sat still while the scanner passed over him. "Broken rib," the doctor noted. "Concussion, dehydration, malnutrition. Nothing life-threatening, but everything documented." "Why are you recording this?" Owen asked. "Evidence," Dr. Patel said quietly. "For the tribunals. Every injury, every harm done to you will be documented and added to the charges against those responsible." Lucia was cleared next, then Nina. While they ate food that tasted like heaven compared to the gray paste, Commander Adler sat across from them. "I need to ask some questions while events are fresh. Can you tell me about the other prisoners?" "The Dreeken?" Owen's head snapped up. "Quellen and his people, are they safe?" "They're being treated now. They told us you tried to protect them, put yourself between them and the Ravagers during the initial capture." "Of course I did. They're peaceful people. Traitors. They didn't deserve this." Adler nodded, making notes on her datapad. "The Admiral wants to speak with you. She's particularly interested in how you came to have a Sigma-class beacon on a civilian merchant vessel." Owen blinked. "I didn't even know it was there. Lucia found it in the emergency systems." "That beacon is 47 years old. It was installed during the War of Liberation and never removed. Probably forgotten in some equipment database. But it worked exactly as designed. It triggered automatic military response protocols across every human fleet." "How many ships did they send?" Nina asked. "Just us, the 3rd Deep Strike Fleet, 40 ships." "Just 40? Nina looked confused. "The Ravagers had over 200. Adler's expression didn't change, but Owen caught something in her eyes. "Pride, maybe." "Quality over quantity, ma'am. We've had 47 years to perfect our military doctrine. The Ravagers learned the difference today." The shuttle detached from the Ravager ship and moved toward the human flagship. Through the viewports, Owen saw the battlefield. Ravager vessels drifting, darkened, disabled. Human ships moving between them in perfect formation. Boarding teams securing prisoners and evidence. "What happens now?" Lucia asked quietly. "Now, Admiral Okonkwo explains to the galaxy what happens when humans are threatened, and Dr. Wu, our xenoanthropologist, begins the diplomatic process of explaining why this sector is now under human protection." The flagship was massive up close. The shuttle docked smoothly, and they were guided through corridors that hummed with contained power. Crew members they passed stopped to nod respectfully. One engineer actually saluted. They reached the conference room where Admiral Patricia Okonkwo waited with Dr. Henry Wu. The admiral was tall, her uniform perfectly maintained despite commanding a fleet through combat. She stood when they entered. "Captain Foster, Ms. Ramos, Ms. Petrov, please sit." They sat, Owen feeling suddenly aware of how dirty and beaten they looked compared to the pristine military environment. "First," Okonkwo said, "I want to apologize that it took us 48 hours to reach you. The experimental fold drives cut travel time significantly, but I wish we could have arrived sooner." Owen found his voice. "Admiral, you crossed 800 light-years in 2 days and defeated a fleet 5 times your size. I think thank you is more appropriate than any apology." A slight smile crossed Okonkwo's face. "Dr. Wu has questions about the Draken. You traveled with them before capture?" "Yes, ma'am. High Arbiter Quellen and his convoy. Good people. When the Ravagers came, they could have scattered, tried to save themselves. Instead, they stayed with us. Offered to share resources to face it together." Henry Wu leaned forward. "That's significant. The Draken are showing up on diplomatic channels we've been monitoring. The galaxy is watching what happens here very closely. Several species are asking if humans will now patrol this sector." Okonkwo nodded. "Which brings me to why I wanted to speak with you directly, Captain Foster. You're a civilian merchant who put himself between innocents and aggressors, who activated a beacon knowing it might take weeks for help to arrive, but did it anyway. You represent the best of what humanity should be." "I just did what anyone would do," Owen said. "No," Okonkwo corrected gently. "You did what a good person does. What a human does when push comes to shove. And now the galaxy knows that those are the people we protect. Not just other humans, but anyone who stands with us against cruelty." "What happens to the Ravagers?" Nina asked. "Warlord Kral and his command structure will face tribunals. War crimes, slavery, assault on civilians. The evidence is comprehensive. As for the rest, those who surrendered will be processed. Some may be released with warnings. Others will face justice based on their individual actions." "And the sector?" Owen asked. Dr. Wu answered this time. "As of 6 hours ago, the Galactic Council received a formal communication from human leadership. Sector 7 is now under human protection. Any species living here peacefully falls under our defensive umbrella. Any aggressor who enters looking for easy prey will find the 3rd Deep Strike Fleet instead." Lucia spoke up, her voice still shaky. "Does this mean you'll stay here? Permanently?" "We'll establish a permanent patrol presence," Okonkwo confirmed. "Smaller than a full fleet, but enough to ensure what happened to you never happens to anyone else. We're also offering defense treaties to peaceful species. The Draken will be first, I think." Owen felt something in his chest, something warm and solid. "You're changing the entire region." "We're keeping a promise," Okonkwo said. "After the War of Liberation, humanity swore 2 things. Never again would we allow our own people to face extinction or slavery, and never again would we stand by while others suffered the same fate. For 47 years we've been peaceful because nobody tested those promises. Today the Ravagers tested them. And found out they were real," Nina finished. "Exactly." Okonkwo stood. "You'll be transported back to human space within the week. Full medical care, trauma counseling, and compensation for your losses. Your ship, the Bright Horizon, can be repaired if you want. Or we can help you acquire a new vessel." Owen looked at Lucia and Nina. They'd been through hell together. They'd survived because of each other and because of one ancient beacon. "I think we'd like to keep the Bright Horizon, and maybe keep trading in this sector if that's allowed." "You'd come back here?" Dr. Wu looked surprised. "After everything?" "This is where our friends are," Owen said simply, thinking of Quellen and the Draken. "And now it's safe. Thanks to all of you." Admiral Okonkwo nodded, respect clear in her expression. "Then welcome to the new Sector 7, Captain, where humans and our allies trade in peace, protected by those who remember what it cost to survive." 6 months had passed since what the galaxy now called the Sector 7 incident. The news had spread across every civilized system. carried by traders and diplomats and refugees who had witnessed the aftermath. Human warships had crossed 800 light-years in 48 hours to rescue their own, then defeated a force 5 times their size in under 20 minutes. The story grew with each retelling, but the core remained the same. Humanity had remembered what it was, and the galaxy had learned to remember too. Owen Foster stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Bright Horizon, watching ships move through the new trade hub that had emerged around the human patrol station. Dreeken vessels moved alongside human merchants. Yalan craft, formerly enslaved species now free, conducted business openly. Even some former Ravager species, those who had denounced the clans and sought peaceful integration, were allowed to trade under strict observation. "Captain, we have clearance for departure." Lucia's voice came through the communication system. She sounded confident now, the trauma slowly healing. "Our new co-captain confirms all Dreeken systems are synchronized with ours." Owen smiled. The new co-captain was Quellen's daughter, Miri. After the rescue, Quellen had approached Owen with a proposal. The Dreeken wanted to formalize their alliance with humanity, starting with shared merchant operations. Miri was young but sharp, and she'd proven herself an excellent navigator. He made his way to the bridge. Miri was at the navigation console, her compound eyes processing data streams that would overwhelm human senses. Nina was at engineering, though she spent half her time teaching Dreeken engineers about human systems. Lucia sat at the pilot's position, hands steady on the controls. "Take us out," Owen ordered. "Let's see what the frontier has for us today." The Bright Horizon slid smoothly out of dock and into open space. They'd been trading between human territory and the outer sectors for 3 months now, carrying goods and building relationships. Every trip proved that what happened at Sector 7 had fundamentally changed the region. Owen's communication terminal chimed. An incoming message from Admiral Okonkwo's flagship, still on patrol duty. He opened the channel. "Captain Foster, this is Admiral Okonkwo. How's business?" "Excellent, Admiral. We just delivered medical supplies to a Yalan colony. They paid in refined metals and gratitude." "Glad to hear it. I wanted to inform you that the tribunals concluded yesterday. Warlord Krall and his command structure received life sentences. The Galactic Council formally recognized the charges and has begun implementing new protections for merchant species throughout frontier territories." "That's good news," Owen said, meaning it. Justice had been slow but thorough. "There's more," Okonkwo continued. "We've received 17 formal requests for defense treaties from species in surrounding sectors. The Dreeken Treaty served as a template. Dr. Wu has been working with diplomatic teams across human space to establish protocols." Owen absorbed this. 17 treaties meant human military presence across a vast region. It meant humanity stepping into a role they'd avoided for nearly 50 years. "How's the fleet handling the expanded responsibilities?" "We're building more ships, training more crews. The 7th and 11th fleets are being assigned to frontier patrol duties. It's a significant commitment, but leadership has decided this is who we are now. Protectors. Not conquerors, but protectors." "The galaxy seems to be accepting that?" Okonkwo paused. "Some species view us with suspicion. They remember the War of Liberation, worry that we're building toward expansion. Others, especially those who've been victims of aggression, are relieved. They see us as the balance that's been missing. The truth is probably somewhere in between. And the aggressive species, the ones who used to control regions like Sector 7, they're learning new rules. We've had 3 incidents in the past 6 months where raiders entered protected space. All 3 times, patrol fleets responded within hours. No shots fired. The raiders saw our ships and left. Word is spreading. Attack protected species, face human military response. It's a simple message, Owen thought about that. Simple messages backed by demonstrated force. You've changed everything, Admiral. We've reminded everyone of something they'd forgotten. Humanity doesn't seek war, but we will absolutely finish it if forced to fight, and we extend that protection to our allies. It's not complicated, the channel closed. Owen sat back, processing the implications. Humanity's peaceful expansion had ended the moment that Sigma-class beacon activated. Now they were something else. Still peaceful, still focused on trade and diplomacy, but with military power that the galaxy couldn't ignore. "Captain," Miri clicked from navigation, "I'm detecting something. Long-range sensors show a distress call. Not military frequency. Civilian merchant vessel approximately 40 light-years from our position." Owen felt his pulse quicken. What kind of distress? Raiders, according to the automated message. Ship identifying as the Gentle Current. Registry shows they're Palian merchants. The Palians were a peaceful species, mammalian traders who had been operating in this region for generations. Owen had met a few. Good people. Lucia, can we reach them? Not before the raiders do. They're already engaged based on the sensor data. Owen made a decision. Send the distress call to the patrol station. Full priority. Then set course for the Gentle Current's location. Maximum speed. Captain, Nina called from engineering. We're a merchant vessel, not a warship. What can we do against raiders? We can be there. We can show them they're not alone. Owen opened communication channels, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Captain Owen Foster of the Bright Horizon to any raiders in Sector 42. You are attacking a merchant vessel in protected space. Human patrol fleets have been notified and are en route. If you have any sense of self-preservation, you'll leave now. It was a bluff mostly. The patrol fleets were notified, but they were hours away at best. The raiders might not know that. 30 minutes later, they arrived at the Gentle Current's location. The Palian ship was damaged but intact. 2 raider vessels were circling it like predators. When the Bright Horizon appeared, the raiders turned their attention to the newcomers. Owen opened a channel. Last warning. Leave or stay and explain to a human warfleet why you ignored the first warning. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then both raider ships activated their engines and jumped to faster-than-light, vanishing. They ran, Lucia said, disbelief in her voice. They saw one merchant ship and ran. They saw a human ship, Owen corrected. That makes all the difference now. They docked with the Gentle Current and helped with emergency repairs. The Palian captain, a graceful being named Cyril, was shaking with relief. We heard the stories, Cyril said through a translator, about what happened at Sector 7, about humans coming to rescue their people. But we're not human. Why would you come for us? Owen smiled. Because 6 months ago, a Dreekan convoy stayed with my ship when raiders came. They could have run, but they stayed. Humanity learned something from that. We learned that the galaxy is full of good people who deserve protection from the predators. You're one of those good people. Cyril's large eyes blinked slowly. The galaxy is changing. Yes, it is. They escorted the Gentle Current to the nearest patrol station. By the time they arrived, Admiral Okonkwo's patrol fleet had mobilized and was sweeping the sector for the raiders. They wouldn't find them. The raiders had likely jumped 3 more times to put distance between themselves and human military assets. 2 weeks later, Owen received notification that the Palians had formally requested a defense treaty with humanity. They were number 18. Back on the bridge of the Bright Horizon, Owen watched the stars slide past. Miri was teaching Lucia some Dreekan navigation techniques. Nina was in engineering, probably tinkering with systems that didn't need tinkering. Everything felt right in a way it hadn't before Sector 7. A priority message appeared on his terminal. Military frequency. He opened it. This is Admiral Patricia Okonkwo to all human vessels in frontier territories. A Sigma-class beacon has been activated in Sector 12. Fleet response has been authorized. All civilian vessels are advised to avoid the area until the situation is resolved. Owen felt his heart rate increase. Another Sigma-class beacon. More humans in danger. Lucia turned in her seat. Captain, that's 3 sectors away. Should we head there? Owen thought about it. Thought about the rebuilt Bright Horizon. About Miri and the alliance they'd formed, about the galaxy that was slowly learning new rules. No, he said finally. The military will handle it. That's their job. Our job is to show the galaxy that humans can be traders, friends, and allies. We leave the fighting to those who are trained for it. But if you're needed, Miri asked. Owen smiled. Then we'll be there. But right now we're needed here. Building relationships and proving that humanity's strength isn't just in our warships. It's in our willingness to stand with others, to trade fairly, to build rather than destroy. 3 hours later, reports came through. The human 11th Fleet had responded to the Sigma-class beacon in Sector 12. Situation resolved. Casualties minimal. Aggressors disabled and taken into custody. The pattern held. The message was clear. Somewhere in the frontier territories, on a dozen different worlds and stations, species were having conversations about humanity, about the sleeping giant that had awakened not to conquer, but to protect, about the war fleets that crossed impossible distances to save their own, and anyone who stood with them. And in military academies across the galaxy, a new lesson was being taught. A simple rule that young officers needed to understand if they wanted to survive in the new order. Don't attack humans. Don't attack human allies. Don't enslave, don't raid, don't prey on the innocent in territories where humans patrol. Because humanity had made a promise after the War of Liberation. Never again would they stand by while others suffered. Never again would they allow their own to face extinction. And as the galaxy was learning, humans kept their promises. The bright horizon continued on its route, carrying goods and friendship across the frontier. Behind them, patrol fleets maintained their watch. Above them, fold drives hummed, ready to carry warships across impossible distances at a moment's notice. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it. And for the innocent, the traders, the peaceful species just trying to survive, that change meant something simple and profound. They were no longer alone.